And we are live, Rise and Shine people. Your host today is Brendan Fields with Rebate. Brendan, take it away.
I thought you were hijacking me there for a second, Dan. I had my opening ready, and then I'm like, oh.
You told me I could host. Now I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
What a shitty thing that would be, huh?
Yeah. Great. So we have Barcus Patty here today. Barcus is a veteran of the e-commerce community, both on the selling side and on the software side. And I have my co-host, Dan Trumbull here, Dan Trumbull Consulting. So Barcus, maybe just to start off, you can tell us a little bit about how you got started. I know you were just telling us before we started recording here that you've been involved, both the software side and the selling side of the business. So yeah, maybe you could start off with that.
Yeah. Feel free to interrupt me and tell me to stop at any time, because I will talk as long as my power is on. So one of my best friends, Anthony Lee, you guys, I think you know him. We met back in 2013, and we just became friends. And this is before we both ever gotten involved in Amazon. And a couple of years later, I was insurance adjusting and traveling the country, going to storms. And he's like, "Hey man, I'm doing this thing on selling on Amazon called private label." And I was like, "What are you talking about?" So he suckered me in, and I've been stuck ever since. So, but we both started working at a previous Amazon software back in 2015 as well. And then I started working for Helium 10 in summer of last year. So, and then I've sold on Amazon off and on, and then I've sold on other marketplaces as well. Some mediocre success. So,
cool. So I guess that makes three of us. Dan Trumbull is the real OG. So Dan told us, I guess, in a previous episode, Dan, what you started with eBay and dial-up internet, right?
That is true. In 1998, I was selling licensed Coca-Cola insulated steel coolers was my first product. And it was so early, I was literally just buying them from Walmart and reselling them on eBay. So yeah. I guess that was my introduction to retail arbitrage, right? But it was, it was just a different world. It was the Wild West. You could, people were buying stuff, not that they needed or wanted, but just because of the novelty of the internet. Yeah. I know I've mentioned this in previous episodes, but when Amazon came along, it was just books, which is difficult to imagine now, but it was just books, and it was originally named Cadabra.com. And it was, Cadabra kind of led you down the path of the magic of the internet, which is laughable now, but 20 years ago, it really did feel like magic. And of course, things have evolved greatly. And, with the addition of Fulfillment by Amazon and integrated fulfillment companies and marketing, and the business and the industry really has grown up and become much more complex.
Yeah. So I guess we jumped into this episode without a clear topic in mind, but given that all three of us have lengthy backgrounds in e-commerce, maybe we could talk about some of the developments of the, I guess, specifically Amazon landscape, and I guess just address some of the challenges that have arose and some of the, changes that are affecting new sellers maybe more so than old sellers. So I guess what comes to mind, and this is kind of parlaying off your point from before, Dan, is the investment cost. So when I got started, similar to you, Dan, I started with about $1,000, and I really could have started with zero because it was a dropship business. And right. I was lucky, actually. So my main dropship supplier was about 10 miles away from me. So I would actually go and pick up inventory, from them, and then immediately ship it out. So I had a great deal getting started. Now it does seem like it's pretty much impossible to start out with less than maybe $10,000. And I always kind of roll my eyes when I see people talk about, starting with under $1,000 or some, low amount. So maybe you guys have ideas on what it really takes to get started, not just with money, but also with time. And can you do this as you hear everybody talk about a passive income or side hustle? Is that a realistic possibility now, or is it really a full-time job with a real upfront investment?
Barcus? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I remember even back in 2015, a ton of courses out that were like, you can start with $500, and they were telling you how to pick a small and light product that doesn't move a lot, blah 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 blah, and obviously that's not realistic now. As far as it being a side hustle, I think that it really just depends on how much time you're willing to stay awake. There's people that they're willing to sleep 4 or 5 hours, and that's enough for them, and have a full-time job and dedicate 4 or 5 hours a night working on a business. So I think it's all relative. That's a lot. I think that I know that me putting in that time like that, it burns me out quite a bit. So I have to take some breaks here and there and be really efficient with my time. So I think that's another thing too. But I mean, it can absolutely be a side hustle, because it affords you the luxury of taking all of your profits and putting them right back into the business, and to build that up. And there's so many other things that you can do when you can take all of that money and put it in, like hiring VAs to do the laborious and monotonous tasks, and building those systems in place and being able to scale a team. I think is a critical skill set especially for 2020.
Yeah, for sure. And maybe Dan, you have a thought on that, but before you answer that, it does seem like if you're able to do it as a side hustle and you don't need to take money out of the business, it does give you a big advantage because you can really be in it for the long game. Like if you are trying to launch a product, but that product needs to be profitable in a month because you have bills to pay and you can't reinvest in a second or third product launch, that does seem to give you a great advantage. So that, maybe in support of your point there, Barcus, but what do you think about that, Jen?
So I agree. I mean, no business is going to survive if they're undercapitalized and mismanaged. So this could be a hobby business, whether it's Amazon, eBay, your own standalone website. It could be a side hustle. It could be or it could be a multinational distribution company. It depends on how much time, money, and effort you have to put into it. I love books. I think that it's a great place for people to get their feet wet on Amazon. Buying and selling used books, you can start with $100. If you lose all 100, it's $100. But if you have really strict criteria, you can flip that 100 into, I don't know, 150, 200 if you have. But it's very much a not super scalable. Because if it's me, then it's Dan driven, right? It's how many books that I can find and how many dirty, dusty bookstores and Goodwills and St. Vinny's that I want to climb through. And for some people, they're like, hey, I'll make $5,000 a month to buy and sell books. Knock yourself out. That could be a side hustle. That could be a full-time hustle. But if you're moving towards building a brand, you've got to have a trademark. You've got to use IP Accelerate. You've got to use, you've got to invest that money in social media, get a following. So it is not, you're not going to get started for a few $100 or even a few thousand. The investment, and you need to reinvest those profits. Otherwise, they say cash is king. In this business, cash flow is king. So if you don't have that money coming back and reinvesting to, excuse me, to re-up the products that are successful and develop new products, your business at best case scenario will become stagnant. So you have to constantly be reinvesting most or all of those profits back into the business. I'd say in the first, depending on your growth rate, 2 years. If you can not take a dime out for 2 years, that would be ideal.
Yeah. And that really is the catch-22 of it, is the faster you grow and the more successful you are, the poorer you'll be as far as cash, right? So like there is really no...
Ironic, isn't it?
Yeah. It's like, that's a lesson you learn quickly. If you're successful on Amazon, it's almost the same feeling as being unsuccessful as far as the money that's available to you as a business owner.
Hey, Brendan, I know you spoke publicly about this in one of our recent episodes, but to that point, didn't you take a $500,000 loan from Amazon?
I did. That was my sad story, my scary story, which I was lucky to survive that. But Yeah, so I did. I was fortunate in the I think I was probably early in the third year of selling on Amazon, and I think it was probably in the beginning of when they started issuing loans, Amazon Capital. I think it must have been the first year, and I saw just randomly a widget pop up on my Seller Central account, and initially I think it was for 300,000. Then I had a great next quarter, and it kept going up, and I became so confident. I was probably 26 at the time. I was so confident that I was like this like master of business, that I was going to take this, I was going to be so leveraged, and I was going to, surpass $10 million. And I had this master plan, and it was a disaster. I got products that arrived became restricted or were defective. There was any problem you could have, I encountered. So I was lucky definitely to get past that issue and survive it. But there are, just speaking more broadly, a lot of lessons you learn through the course of running an Amazon business, that it's almost like, kind of in my experience, like going to business school, except it's kind of like the school of hard knocks.
It really is. And I don't bring it up because I think that you made a mistake. I bring it up because I think that specifically points to if your business is growing, especially if it's in hyper growth mode, you need access to capital. You need scalable access to capital to continue to grow. Because if you buy 1,000 units of something and they sell out in a month, your manufacturer, you need more than 1,000, by the way, especially if they're coming from Asia, which they are, let's be honest. But now you need 5,000. Well, you're not 5 times your money on profit. So where does that extra money come from for that 4,000 unit? Your pockets. You have to have access to capital to continue to grow that SKU and to continue to introduce new SKUs.
Yeah. And to maybe tease an upcoming episode. So I know, Dan, we talked about, we have a guy coming on, Yev Ivanko, and he started a company that called Nimble Seller. And what they do is they do what's essentially called cargo finance, or it is called cargo finance. And they'll buy your inventory for you, and then you pay them back as it's sold, or it's on a predetermined schedule, but at least it's as projected to be sold, based on what you expect the sales volumes to be. So there are definitely solutions to this stuff, and there's more and more, and maybe we can move on. Barcus can speak about this more, but more and more creative softwares and services available to sellers to give them the opportunity to succeed and to address common pain points in the Amazon selling business. So, and maybe that'll, like I said, Barcus, lead into a good question for you is what do you see out there that's, in the software space that's really providing a lot of value to sellers and helping them, succeed with their businesses?
As far as like financial services or tools?
It could be financial or time management, things that help people, for example, make it a side hustle with, the help of software.
So yeah, I mean, no surprise here, but I work for Helium 10, and I think that software and tools are great out there. I think that, and I, talking about that, but like what I've seen over the past couple of years is, financial services, tools and services come into this space, which is really interesting. Everything from Alta, our financial lending tool, and then also there's other brokerage firms that are buying and selling businesses. So like the whole financial side is, to me, is the biggest thing that's come about in the past couple of years as far as software and tools for Amazon. But I think that tools are great. I'm always the one to say, hey, look, don't look at tools to like 100% solve your problems. They're not vending machines. You can't just put money into whether it is a launch software or a suite of tools like Helium 10. You can't just put money into it and expect an ROI. Like, you've got to take that data and make decisions. And I think data is great. Like, tools are great because they do help aggregate that data, and it allows you to digest it in a different way. And it also can automate a lot of that time, like especially keyword research. Keyword research is awful to do it manually,
Yep.
And I can't imagine doing it manually if these tools didn't exist now.
Yeah.
But
Hey, Barcus,
it does.
to your point, I just want to interject real quick.
Sure.
To your point, so you're right. Tools are just tools, just like a carpenter. Tools can't build a house.
Yeah.
You need a carpenter to properly use those tools to build a house.
Yeah.
Just like you need an e-com professional, you, me, Brendan, or whoever is watching this, to use those tools properly to build a business. Same thing. I totally get it. Totally agree.
So yeah, I just think that the tools are great. Just when you're looking at data, you gotta make decisions. Yeah, I see so many people like, we see the classic screenshots of like, what do you think of this product? Like, I don't know, dude. Like, I have no idea what kind of product it is. I can just see search volume and, this kind of stuff. Like, you've got to be able to decide, and you don't want, like, never ask strangers like what type of product you should pick for your business. Like, the data's
Such a bad
great
idea for so many reasons.
Well, yeah, and a lot of people don't understand that. But to my point is, it's like, you don't have to be passionate or in love with that product, but you have to look at a product as like, how can I solve a problem for somebody? That's where I like to think of as far as products, like what problems does this type of product solve? Now, do I want to go down that and then do keyword research and product research around that? That's just one way. You can also do it a million different ways.
One of the first questions I ask new clients is this a profit project or is this a passion project?
Yeah, I think you could do maybe a whole podcast series on just product development and choosing products that give you a real advantage. And I'm sure, at Helium 10, you guys probably speak about this, at length, but I really am reluctant to, advise people to use those tools like the product research tools and lean on them too heavily, because at the end of the day, I mean, there's so many sellers getting involved in e-commerce now that even if you find some niche where there's a lot of search traffic and very little competition, that's very, very temporary. And with the aid of a lot of these research tools, those little pockets are filling at a faster and faster rate. So building or developing a product that has some value and better yet can be protected by IP is probably the only way to build a long-term viable e-commerce business now. I don't know, maybe you guys have a thought on that.
I agree 100%. There's got to be some sort of, if you're building a brand on or off Amazon or both, it should be both. Today, there has to be some sort of IP attached to it if you're doing private label.
Yep.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yep. Yeah, it's definitely so. Like with IP, I think it was interesting to see the development of that. And since we've all been involved with e-commerce for the number of years we have, IP and particularly trademarks, it seemed like used to be just an anti-hijacking method, right? So if you had a trademark brand, nobody could get on your listing. Now it's become more than that. So hijacking is one thing. There's a lot of tools and ways to prevent hijacking, but now it doesn't really matter. Just if you have a trademark, name that isn't recognized by the vast majority of consumers, you need to have some, I guess, product feature that, has value to shoppers, because just, preventing hijacking is not going to be a long-term, method of developing a successful business. So,
right.
And 100%, like, I think people need to look at a trademark as an asset for your business. You can't sell that. You can't sell that business in 2 years if you don't have a trademark.
For sure.
Yep. Certainly, you wouldn't
if
be
you
able
do,
to sell
you're going to get
as much.
If you sell it without it, you're going to get ripped off because
right.
it just yeah, absolutely. So it's the same thing with like anything that you can put your brand name on as an asset. Like all these social media accounts, people ask me like all the time, like, what should I do? But in between the time that I get my product in, I'm like, man, create all these social media assets now. Number one, they're 99% of them are free to do, but number two, like just start building that ecosystem of what you want to talk about and how you want to talk about it. So, but again, like those are real assets. Most people are looking to build a business to potentially sell it. If you have amass this social media following with people that are really engaged with what you want to talk about in your brand and everything, that is real financial value to most people that want to buy a company. So
right. And if you have a standalone website and you have 5,000 people that have signed up and 1,000 of those have made previous purchases, and you own the .com and you own the intellectual property and the logo is there, and they've agreed, of course, with every, they've agreed to be passively remarketed to. That's really valuable to anyone coming in. Like, oh, we have these 5,000 niche people that are already aware of the company. 20% of them have already made purchases from. I mean, the numbers to remarket to previous customers compared to cold are staggering. It's like they're like 800% more likely to buy or something like that. And you can get really specific. If you sell widgets, maybe this customer only buys medium-sized blue widgets. So you can be like, okay, these 43 or 4,300 customers that buy medium-sized blue widgets, we're having a sale on those. And it's really specific, and it triggers that emotional response like, oh, those are the widgets that I buy, and this is a special deal for me.
Yep.
And it just triggers something in people that makes them click the button. And that's really what it's about, is evoking an emotional response.
Yeah. I guess if we could pivot, Barcus, you said something that I guess piqued my interest, which is the opportunity for sellers to sell their businesses now. So when I started, I don't think there was much of a market for selling an Amazon store, but it definitely seems like in the last year, I mean, everywhere I look, you see, sellers selling their businesses for quite a lot of money in some cases. Since you have the high level view working at Helium 10, maybe you can tell us a little bit about that landscape, and then whether sellers are actually now starting an Amazon store with the vision to sell it in 2 or 3 years, and if so, maybe how they go about following that trajectory.
So yeah, like I talked about earlier, I think it's an amazing time to, if you're looking to sell a profitable business, now is the time, like the sweet spot. A guy in the space, Tom Wang, just sold his beauty brand, and I don't know what he sold for, but it's an exciting time. I've watched him from the beginning, the ups and downs, and he's been pretty open about these things, but they sold it, and I think it's an incredible thing. Like like you said, like 5 years ago, people weren't thinking about it. I think everybody's a little different. I don't have an interest in selling my business because it's a bit of passion. Some years it's too much passion. But there's definitely people that are coming in to want to sell it. And if you're coming in to sell, like, again, like me and Dan were just talking about, like securing all these assets is extremely important. You've got to look at this thing from a profit and loss standpoint. The more numbers that you have that you can put up, and it's everything from, social media and obviously profit, but like also, your reviews, your return numbers as well. Those numbers, like most companies, especially brokerage firms that are in the process of buying and selling these businesses, they know what to look for. So they're digging into your numbers deep. And, if they see that, you got 3.5 stars on, an average of your products or your store rate, your seller feedback, like that's a real number that they look at. Your return rate, your warranty issues, like customer service issues. So they look at all these things, and it needs to be more than like, I want to build this amazing product. So, and that's hard to do, in my opinion. So
yeah, I agree.
For me, I'm speaking for myself. So I'm not a numbers guy. I do my best, but
hey, I've got a question for Barcus and you, Brendan. Mm-hmm. If you could pick 3 software packages, 3 pieces of software, only 3, that you would recommend to a seller that's in their first 2 years, what would they be?
Yeah, sure. So I could start. So I've never used Helium 10, but I've never heard anybody say anything negative about it. I know a lot of sellers use that as their go-to for all the tools that they offer. So yeah, you definitely couldn't leave Helium 10 off that list. Jungle Scout is good. I think there might be some overlap. I guess contradicting my point from before, you definitely need to be able to do some level of product research and learn about categories and products, if only to identify opportunities to develop a proprietary product in a category with high search volume and low competition. And as far as the third tool, I mean, something that helped manage the finances of the business. So I don't know if this is what you're getting at, but QuickBooks, right? Just learning basic accounting and being able to understand what inputs generate what output. So at least for me, I felt like that was my biggest breakthrough when I learned basic accounting and started to understand what I did in my business and how that affected the bottom line. That was a huge breakthrough for me. So I would say those three are in my opinion.
Cool. Barcus?
I'm just going to have to copy your answer. Financial things, again, like, especially if you're not good at numbers, like QuickBooks or Xero, whichever one kind of works for your brain. I think an all-in-one tool is good to get started, something like Helium 10. Jumbo Scout, Viral Intellect, we all have overlapping features, but we all have some unique things, and we all have some sort of free trial. So of course I'm biased, but I'm also going to tell everybody, like, check out those free trials and find out which one you like best. Because especially in the beginning, investing $100 a month into software, it's a lot of money. So, and I would also say this again, I'm not a numbers person. So some sort of PPC tool just to help learn PPC. I hate PPC. It is like my nemesis. I can figure everything else out, but there's no logic that goes into the PPC algorithm, at least in my experience, because things will go well. I put more money into it and that campaign tanks. And I'm like, I don't know what's happening. But the tools can help, again, aggregate that data in a shorter time frame so you can make choices in a shorter amount of time. So you're saving time with these. So yeah, some sort of PPC tool, some sort of all-in-one tool to help. If you don't know anything about Amazon, this will help you with like product research, keyword research, and kind of understanding how things work. And then also, honestly, man, like Amazon Seller University is not bad. It's really not bad for understanding how Amazon works, how Amazon Seller Central works, because that's an entire other beast that we could talk about forever. And that's absolutely free with your Amazon Seller Central account. And if you don't know what to sell, don't sign up for the professional plan that's $40 a month. You can sign up for the individual plan. If you're not selling anything right now, you can get access to a lot of things in there, especially the Seller University, and just start, teaching yourself.
That's a great point. Seller University is an often overlooked resource that Amazon is constantly updating and adding to. I would liken it to, like, if you were to buy a course 3 years ago that was $2,500, the Amazon Seller University would be better than that. And also, we know that it's accurate and up to date because it's right from the horse's mouth, right? Yeah. It's produced by Amazon. It's updated by Amazon. There's even little quizzes and tests in there. I think it should be mandatory to sell on Amazon to go through it all. But if you go through every single one, you will come away with a much deeper understanding of how Amazon does and does not function. Yeah.
And just, I guess, nailing that point is there's a ton of free resources, whether it's from Amazon or just on YouTube. I haven't personally subscribed to a course, but I can't imagine there's much that you could put in a course that isn't publicly available. So looking at the courses, I guess the value proposition is, what value do you put on, having all that information and guidance within one continuous course versus having to pick it piece by piece from free resources. But I do think there's a little bit of misunderstanding amongst people getting involved selling online that you really can't start without signing up for a course. And I don't think that's true. I think there's tons of free resources, and also a lot of people that are just like us, that have been working in the industry for a long time, that are happy to have a few minute chat with somebody and share our experience or their experience, and point them in the right direction. So I think that's an important point, definitely, to emphasize to new sellers.
And I think a lot of people have a misconception about courses, and there's some good ones. There's obviously some bad ones with anything out there. But if you're willing to put in the time, then that course will probably work for you, But I can go buy the best course from the best Amazon coach in the world, but if I don't put that time in, then I just wasted my money and my time. So you've got to be, it's a lot of work. Most of the better courses out there, there's a lot of accountability involved. So like, you've got to show up for these meetings. You've got to do homework. And if you don't do your homework, they're going to call you out and be like, hey, I didn't get this from you. We, blah, blah, blah. So again, like you got to, free course or a paid course. The better paid courses save you time, because you're going through all the knowledge that's aggregated properly in an accelerated amount of time. So, but again, you got to be willing to put that time into that course. So,
yeah. What's your thought on courses, Dan?
I think that they have their place in the market. I am a one-on-one kind of hand-holding, let's collaborate together type of coach. I was asked and even started to develop a course, and I stopped that process because I felt like it didn't fit my brand, and my brand is boutique style consulting. I don't accept a lot of clients. I don't accept a lot of projects, but the ones I do, I'm passionate about, and I want to collaborate with intimately. I want to get down to like, what is their motivation and why are you doing this? And it's always really interesting. The answers are always very personal. I want to spend more time with my kids. I hate my job. I'm afraid of coronavirus as a common one these days. So I think it makes me a better coach if I can work directly with the person. Having said that, there's probably a ton of money in courses that I'm missing out on, but really, I don't do this for the money. I do it for the fulfillment, and I make most of my money actually selling on Amazon. Crazy, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I guess in support of your point, there's also a huge disparity between experiences in different categories on Amazon. So I've sold mostly in sports and outdoors since I started, and I feel like I'm in a fairly sleepy, easy category compared to some of the more regulated categories where you need to get permission to sell in them. So I do think in some cases courses are a little bit too broad. Like, there is a lot of benefit to be gained by just trial and error within your specific niche with your specific products, because the experiences definitely can be disparate, based upon what you're selling as well.
Right on. Totally agree.
Yeah. So yeah, I guess we could start to wrap it up. I don't know if you guys had any closing ideas, or maybe something we haven't touched upon that you think is, under discussed or not focused on enough within the e-commerce community.
I think that I'm pretty open about my ups and downs of success. And I think I think it doesn't get talked about enough, as far as like you're going to fail. You're going to make some huge mistake down the road, but it's how you react to those mistakes. Like, you can sit there and blame Amazon all you want, but it's still your money. It's your business. So like, you've got to figure it out. Seller Central is not going to figure it out for you. So I think that just understanding, like, you might lose on your first product. It might be a complete dud. You might not have gotten a proper inspection, and half of your inventory is, a defect, and you lost all that money. Like, but it's all about how you react to that decision. Like, you can blame it on whoever, but at the end of the day, like, it's still your business. So you've got to figure it out. And I think that I love hearing successes like my friend Tom I was talking about earlier. Like, I love seeing that he's come to this full cycle in that brand. Like, he's been able to sell it, make a massive profit. And it's, but we just don't talk enough about, like, man, this could really, this could make or break you, financially. And especially in those first couple of years, and I'm speaking from experience here, especially in those first couple of years, like, those things can happen, and they can affect you, and also the relationships with the people around you. Like, you get so frustrated, and you don't want to, hang out with anybody or talk to anybody, and you can get into these funks if you're not careful. So I just think it's important to just be like, hey, look, you're probably going to make a bunch of mistakes along the road. It's how you react to them. Have people, like 1 or 2 close friends that are in the community that you can talk to about these problems and be really intimate with, and be like, I don't know how to do this, or I'm afraid of this, and how do I solve this problem? Like, having those, 3 or 4 friends to me, that's been the best thing about selling, is being able to go to, I've got 2 or 3 of them, and I can be like, man, I don't know what I'm doing. I made this mistake, and they're like, it's all good. This is it. We'll figure it out together. So,
yeah, I couldn't agree more. I mean, Brendan, you know, and I know that there's going to be failures. And like you were talking about, Barcus, if you learn from those failures, I like to call it fail forward, right? So I think it was the guy Edison, who said that I didn't fail inventing the light bulb. I just found 100 ways to not do it.
Yep.
And I've actually held a Thomas Edison invented light bulb in my hand, which is kind of an incredible feat. They don't look like the light bulbs today, but
yep.
You know, when you think about how many times he tried to invent the light bulb and didn't, and it failed, or it only lasted 2 minutes and then exploded, or whatever. You know, it's the same thing with business. There are going to be failures. There are going to be roadblocks. There are going to be setbacks. Mm-hmm. And that's how we learn. That's how we fail forward. You start to develop best practices that are specific to what you're doing and what your goals are.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's a great topic to close on, because it really is, you know, not spoken about enough. Like, you look on these Facebook groups and you see endless graphs of people taking a screenshot of their best month or their, you know, best quarter, with each month perfectly, you know, I think maybe some are Photoshop, but, you know, that perfect upward trajectory. And I think a lot of people probably relate more to the failures and the challenges and the successes. And, you know, it probably spills over a bit into lifestyle as well. Like, I know personally, I've developed ways that I, you know, adapt or manage those tough periods where, you know, at least for me, and we can go on and on about this, but I try to get exercise, and I try to set a time of day where I'm just done with Amazon unless there's really a crisis. You know, and those sort of things definitely help you through, and you know, everybody encounters those challenges. So it's a great point to make, and a great point to close on.
Totally agree.
Yeah. So thanks, Barcus, for joining us today. And thanks, Dan. I don't know if you guys want to just do a last plug of your businesses, or the, in your case, Barcus, the business you work for.
I really appreciate you guys having me on, and, you know, letting me ramble for an extended period of time. So if anybody has questions about Helium 10, you can just shoot me a Facebook message, and, you know, send me a friend request, so I'll see the message too, because if we're not friends, then it filters it and I miss a bunch of them. But I'm happy to just chat with anybody, you know, no cost, of course, like, and, you know, jump on a call, whatever, and just help somebody out. So.
Right on. I'm Dan Trumbull, DanTrumbleConsulting.com. I also offer free consultations. Feel free to go to my website. You can book directly into my calendar, which shows my availability and adjusts for time zones. I can help people with any sort of website, e-commerce, Walmart, Sears, Amazon, Wayfair, Newegg, on and on and on. I help clients integrate with these all the time. Happy to discuss any projects you have coming up.
And I'm Brendan Fields. I'm the founder of Rebate. We are a launch platform for e-commerce sellers, and we support product launches on Amazon. And in addition, we just expanded to support launches on Walmart, eBay, Etsy, and independent websites as well. So
awesome.
Thanks, guys. This was a good episode, and yeah, I appreciate you guys joining us.